So for the past 2 weeks, I have constantly been trying to tell you, sound the bell, ring the warning bell, and get the word out that the Conservatives, now that quote themselves saying that Brexit's been done, that this was a fantastic opportunity to, well, completely and utterly gut workers' rights. And not just workers' rights, we're talking consumer protections and a whole other swathe of regulations. In fact, the current two that are up on the chopping block, or should I say, one was on the chopping block. We'll get to that, why that was in a moment. But obviously, you've had workers' rights, especially looking at the Working Time Directive, which in it was packaged together a whole lot of other workers' rights which were secured together. There is also, at the moment, a push to reintroduce a very specific pesticide that is known to kill bees. And I hate to say it, guys, you may not like bees or even wasps, but we need them because they pollinate things. And if you look up pollination, how it works, quite important to the environment. And getting rid of bees, and especially at a time where we are seeing bee populations plummet, reintroducing these pesticides could cause a ecological disaster. And that is the last thing this country needs really at the moment. So especially if you do really care about that, there are currently two petitions floating around. There is the Greenpeace one, and I think there's one on Change.org. I think it is. So go sign both, or go sign one or the other. Just go and sign them, because I also said workers' rights was one that was on the chopping block. Well, because there has been so much public pushback, Kwasi I think that's how you say it, Kwasi Kwarteng, I think that's how you say it, has essentially done a massive U-turn. Indeed, he's had a road to Damascus moment, and we are going to go over into Ed Miliband now, of what happened in Parliament, and literally, Ed Miliband committed an absolute slaughter. He absolutely knocked Kwarteng senseless with his words. They were absolutely brutal, because if you know anything about Mr. Kwarteng, again, the guy in charge of business now in terms of like cabinet position, he has for years in writings, in pamphlets, in blogs, Britannia Unchained, has advocated for the absolute systematic gutting of workers' rights and all sorts of protections that, as I've said many times, when we're in the EU, we took for granted. And I've said it many times, but we are going to have to fight, and this was one such fight. And it may have been that technically we've hauled them off for now. The problem comes is they might try it again later. And this time, they might put a different spin on it, because this was being sold as having, was freeing up businesses and workers, when it actually wasn't at all. It wasn't giving any workers any more freedoms. In fact, it was taking away freedoms from workers, getting rid of the Working Time Directive. So we'll jump in to what Ed Miliband had to say, and trust me, Ed Miliband, we missed out on another fantastic Labour leader under him. I'll tell you that now. So, this comes from the... Oh, before we do that, though, please do remember to hit that subscribe... please do remember to hit the subscribe button, and of course the like and share button, and of course down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link, and thank you very much to those people who do support the channel that way. So, this, as I said, comes from the New European, and this is Ed Miliband mocks Kwasi Kwarteng's, I think again that's how you say it, I'm really going to have to look it up, his road to Damascus conversion. because, as I said, they've performed another massive U-turn after almost since the beginning of January, saying that they were going to get rid of this. So, here we go. Shadow Business Secretary Ed Miliband has savaged the new business minister over his attempts to, quote, review workers' rights after Brexit. The former Labour leader turned his attention on Kurzai Kutang over his previous remarks about the rights of workers. In the debate in the Commons, where Tory MPs abstained on protecting the rights, Miliband pointed out to numerous pamphlets of Kutang had written calling for cuts to rights. He said, "This was not some Whitehall accident. This is what they believe." And I have told you for many, many years, this is what they believe. We haven't gone over the full Britannia Unchained, but we've covered extracts from Britannia Unchained, and it should shock you. And once again, we're going to cover some of the stuff that came up in Britannia Unchained, because this is what Ed Miliband goes after him for. So let's talk about their record, he said. This is a government that has cut rights to unfair dismissal, imposed tribunal fees, and slashed the HSE budget. I know Kutang is now rather sheepish about it, but he can't get away from his back catalogue. It wasn't just one rogue pamphlet. Britannia Unchained is a systematic set of beliefs. I've been reading up on him, and in 2011, in After the Coalition, he wrote, "People should be forced to take out private unemployment insurance." I wonder if he remembers that one. In the Innovation Economy in 2014, he said, "Government should exempt new firms from all employment rights for 3 years." In 2015, in The Time for Choosing, he specifically targeted the 48-hour work week, saying it cost the economy billions of pounds. And of course, in the infamous Britannia Unchained, he said British workers were the worst idlers in the world. To paraphrase one of his predecessors, the noble Lord Heseltine, Mr. Kutang advocated cutting workers' rights before breakfast, lunch and dinner, and woke up in the morning after and wrote another pamphlet advocating for cutting workers' rights. And now he expects us to believe he's had a road to Damascus conversion. He's dumped all his previous beliefs. He's gone, if you like, from Britannia Unchained to Workers of the World United. And you have nothing to lose but your chains. From blue Quasi to red Kazi. How gullible does he think the working people in this country are? All his previous convictions and all his beliefs, he never believed a word of them. Come off it. The truth is, he is caught between what he truly believes, which is what he wrote time after time, and where he knows the British people are. He cannot solve the problems of power, class and inequality in the workplace because it is not what he believes. And it is not what this government believes. But Kutang told MPs he wanted to be extremely clear that the government will not reduce workers' rights. He told the debate, "There is no government plan to reduce workers' rights. And as the new Secretary of State, I have been extremely clear that I do not want to diminish workers' rights. And on my watch, there will be no reduction of workers' rights. I do not want there to be any doubt about my or the government's intentions in this area." And yet, we have done story after story for the past 2 weeks of government intentions into cutting workers' rights. He absolutely got his trousers pulled down around his ankles by Ed Miliband there. Absolutely. And I hope in the future that a lot of other Labour MPs are also going to realise that a lot of other people on those front benches also had parts and wrote many numerous things and blogs and things like that in order to try and impress and improve their creds back when they were young Tory MPs. Because if they wrote it back then, what's to say they don't believe it now? Like I say, this guy, Kurt Kurzai, wrote prolifically, as Ed Miliband just said there, continuously about cutting workers' rights. You know, what on earth is it to be? And I'm glad that there has been a U-turn, but don't underestimate that this isn't a victory. So long as the Conservatives remain in power with the amount of support they have, at any moment they could call for a vote on removing the Working Time Directive or the 48-hour work week provisions anytime, and they could do it because they've got the parliamentary numbers to do it. No one can stop them. Even if the Lib Dems, Labour, SNP, Greens, if they all got together, they couldn't stop them. And this is something that we have to be careful for. So while this is a victory, in some ways, this is just part of the larger war we are going to have to fight. And like I say, be prepared for more battles like this in the future, because this hopefully will not be the first time that we force, shall we say, a rather embarrassing U-turn upon the government. So thank you to all those people that stood up and made their voices heard during this time period, because as I have continuously said, if you make your voices heard, MPs will listen. And it's not really that hard to do, especially in the information age. These days, you don't even actually have to write a full letter. Most of the times of the campaigns, they will pre-write you one for you to just click and send. So, as always, thank you for watching. Please do remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link. And thank you very much to the people who do support the channel that way. And as always, we'll see you all next time.